good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it might be for you. Welcome to Boundless Wisdom, Leaders in Conversation. Please do in the chat box let us know where you're dialing in from, what's happening on your side of the world, wherever that might be. Yes, and today's conversation is about humanizing AI. Our host is Neil van der Scorps, our speaker, Clodagh Higgins. And Neil and Clodagh will have a discussion for about 40 minutes, a presentation and a discussion. And we'd love you, while they're having a conversation, to pop some questions in the chat box, make some comments. So have a conversation with us via the chat box. And what we'll do is after about 40 minutes, we'll open up for conversation. You can unmute and ask questions directly. And we will stay on for a little while extra for you to have a conversation. We seem to be having one technical difficulty, and that is for some reason your videos are not enabled. I'll check that in the background as we're going along to see. But thank you for being present, being here with us today. And over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Jeanette, and welcome everybody to this edition of Boundless Wisdom's Leaders in Conversation. Today, we're diving into a topic that's disrupting the world more than anything else that we've seen in the last couple of decades, and that is artificial intelligence. My guest today is Clodagh Higgins. She's a business and performance coach. She is a certified reinvention practitioner, but more appropriately for today, she is an expert in guiding organizations in the adoption of AI. So welcome, Clodagh. It's really nice to have you on, and it's nice to finally kick off this Leaders in Conversation with you.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Clodagh? Why is this conversation so important to you and also to our guests that have dialed in?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been, we've been planning this in the background, so it's been wonderful to bring it to fruition. I've been staggered by the statistics that are coming out, and I'm going to highlight some of them, but most of the companies that are implementing AI are not being successful with it. There's a high level of resistance with some people who perhaps aren't tech savvy or are afraid of change or afraid of losing their jobs. So there's a real disconnect happening with companies right now, in where the CEO is asking the CTO to help with the implementation of AI, and instead of coming at it from a human-centric approach, it's not being successful, and that's quite sad and also quite scary, because if we don't embrace AI, it is going to take over some companies and some people's jobs, and I'd rather people were prepared for the change and be part of the change in a way that embraces what suits them. You don't all have to become AI technologists, but it's the embracing it because it is coming here. And having been a business coach and a performance coach, I have been working with businesses to help them reinvent and to help them change. I've been working with people to help them reinvent themselves and to change in their careers or in their businesses or whatever that is. And I have been in the digital marketing world for 16 years. And right now, I've gone through iterations of when the internet helped businesses, when we had social media helping businesses. And now I can see this education piece that needs to be done, but we're coming at it from the wrong way. And I have a framework to make sure people can be successful.
Thank you, Clodagh. So let's start in the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of noise around getting on board. A lot of companies are looking at it, small organizations, large organizations. So there's a lot of noise and almost pressure for organizations to get on board.
Yeah.
What are the key elements in your view, based on your experience? what are the key elements that needs to be in place for AI adoption and implementation to be successful? Let's start in the beginning. What should I be considering?
Yeah, well, I actually have a visual and I know that Leaders in Conversation is a conversation, but to help with this, I actually have some visuals because this will actually help people give that. So I'll share. Don't worry, everyone. I'm not going to drown you in PowerPoint slides. I only have a couple of slides just to anchor the visual on this. So perhaps I'll start there and share what I've got here. Neil?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
awesome.
see. Thank you.
Everyone
Brilliant.
can say brilliant. And so, yeah, the humanizing AI, it's a very important process. And this is, I wanted to highlight some of the statistics. You can see MIT, Global Market Intelligence, that 95% of corporate AI pilot programs are failing to progress past the incubation phase. 42% of companies are abandoning most AI initiatives, and only 11% of companies report that most AI the projects deliver results far less in HR and in finance. And to think of those, that is staggering when we do know that the positive impacts that AI can have if it is addressed properly. So when I looked at that, and then I would talk to businesses about, well, how are they implementing? It's actually sitting there in front of our eyes that it's actually they're leading with AI tool training instead of a human-centric approach. For example, they're treating this AI as if they're doing a software launch, as if it's a let's learn Salesforce, it's as if it's let's learn LinkedIn, and they're coming at it from the tools first. And what we believe is in a world where AI accelerates human potential and not replaces it. So in order to have that, the solution that I've come up with is that your AI tools training is the last part of what you do. And instead, you have an 8-step framework. And I'll quickly just give you the 8 steps in this. And don't worry, everyone, you don't have to take too many notes if you don't want to, because I'll be sharing these slides with Neil and Jeanette and the team so that you can get them afterwards. But this is the process to go through to have a successful implementation of AI in your business. And it starts out with an AI readiness audit. You've really got to understand your current AI capabilities, and you've got to have a plan to the next steps. You've got to review your processes, data, and readiness. And this is something, as you know, with Boundless Wisdom, we all have experience in reinvention tools, reinvention processes, frameworks, and steps. And people are just launching, like I said, straight into the tools. Let's get on and use the tools, which are, in fact, changing on a weekly, monthly basis. So what you would learn today, maybe about AI agents and bots and programming and workflows, is actually being superseded within a very short period of time. So a slower approach, like a slow down to speed up approach, is what's really needed here. What the minute people hear AI coming into a company or talks about it, not everyone loves change. A lot of people are actually very resistant to change. They don't like to do things differently. And many people never embraced social media like some of the marketing people or the consultants like we are. We have embraced things like LinkedIn because we know it helps our business. But I have many friends that have never used LinkedIn, never used social media. They have successful jobs and they're great at what they do, but they didn't need these tools. So we can be positive about, like I'm positive about AI tools to the most, but some people aren't. So what happens is if they hear AI, the resistance starts to come. They're fearful. There's a lot of propaganda in the news about people losing their jobs and jobs being lost and etc. But what we're proposing is while you're seeing how ready you are, you come and do some lifestyle training, AI awareness, things like how to improve your maybe a nutrition plan, maybe how to improve your shopping budget, how to do some meal planning, maybe travel planning. So we could teach the employees in a company what's actually a positive experience with AI while the company is getting ready to decide what they're doing. And the other thing that we have seen over and over again is that the data isn't clean. So you can have this, your readiness, and you're having your lifestyle and giving people a positive experience in their AI experience. And then with the data, you're looking at, is it clean? And it's failing. AI implementations are failing because the data isn't clean. The lists aren't clean. The review, you have to review, organize, and set up your data properly. And then you can have a nice foundation. A lot of people are just putting tools into AI tools and they're going, I've got 50 seats and only 3 people are using them. So again, having a cost benefit analysis going, how much is that tool? And I think people have to remember at the moment, there is a lot of hype that these tools are free, but that's not going to last forever. You can imagine you can get these AI tools that are very inexpensive or sometimes free. And we all know if things are free, we're the product. And over time, if a company is really reliant on these free or cheap tools, you can bet your bottom dollar that the company that's giving you those tools is going to increase the price. And before you know it, it could be more expensive to have AI tools than it is to have a team of people. And you've got to analyze that. And of course, the change management piece, you have to talk to people individually about the world is changing, the company is changing, and your job is going to change. Like you can have now a marketing manager who used to have a team of 16 people to do content, blogs, social media, that was SEO, the analysis, all of that. They would have individual people. That job can be boiled down to maybe 2 people right now. So as a manager, a lot of people, like the fact that they have, I manage 18 people or I manage 80 people, and working with them to go, it's going to be different. And how can we make it better for you? I personally believe we're going to have a lot more free time so that we can be more human, hence the topic here. And helping people with that. There's a lot of people who just work all the time and that's all they live for. So what are we going to do if we reduce their work time? Not reduce their wages, like because the company's still successful, but giving them more time to be more creative, to read more, to think more, to have thinking time, and maybe even pick up those hobbies that they've been too busy to do. So the change management, which we are all familiar with in the reinvention family, we have been talking about this for a long time. And then finally, you bring in the training. And because now you've done the foundations, you are now having people have had a positive experience and you have to customize the training for each department. What marketing needs, sales don't, and finance is different. And as you could see from before, the finance and HR have become resistant, possibly because marketing and salespeople kind of like social media, though, and they embrace new things, but maybe the personalities in finance and HR, they could be the people that went, I don't use social media, I don't like technology, I'm a little bit afraid of it. So the training has to be specific for that for each division. While all this is going on, the company is transforming. So it's important for the leaders to get together and talk about it's going to look different. The company is going to look different, and that's the reality. And while you're transforming, you have to come back around and reinvent. So you'll need to do this process every year. Every year you're going to have to do this so that you can actually thrive with it. So I wanted to share those with you. Really the conclusion is that an AI implementation in your organization it's going to fail if you treat it just like a software or social media training that you've rolled out in the past. It has to have a human-centric approach, and it has to ensure that people prepare and embrace for the changes that it's going to bring to their lives personally and professionally. Because it is coming for all aspects of life, and I'd rather people were prepared and on board, like I said, instead of getting a fright when it's too late. And so that's all I'm going to do. That's quick and easy with the PowerPoint, and you can have the slides to have that framework to go, well, where am I at in this journey?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that comprehensive overview, Clodagh. I particularly like your 7-step model. One of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning of the discussion was that it was actually something that I picked up that is counter the popular and conventional narrative these days.
Mm.
You said that you view AI as something that will enhance our lives, our working lives, rather than replace us.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going through speaking to leaders in organizations, et cetera, what are the major misconceptions that you've come across? What do they think that AI can do? What do they think that it cannot do? What do they fear that it will do? And what are the things that are just blatantly not possible?
Yeah.
You share some of that with us, please.
Yeah, we're still all figuring it out. That's the kind of beauty of this right now. We are still figuring out what are the capabilities. What we know is that there's a new technology just popping up left, right, and center. And I think the way what we're encouraging people to do, especially people who are not technology savvy or have been resisting, they don't like social media and they think AI is the same sort of thing, or they're watching the news, the propaganda of, oh, AI has slashed jobs, or while that's true in some companies, it's not the truth for everything. So I think the big misconception is that you can ignore it, and people have been ignoring it, and they're going, look, it's over there, it's not going to affect my job. The reality is there's things that we do in our job that we don't like doing. So there's, no matter if you love what you do, there's, if you're a salesperson, you hate, logging your leads, or you hate the follow-up paperwork, or you hate things, or maybe you're gathering your receipts for the end of month expenses, or whatever it is. There's always something in our jobs that we keep putting off and keep putting off, and then it's the end of the month and we have to do it all in one go, and we really hate that part. So if there's aspects of everyone's job that can actually be taken off, and if you think of it that way, as going, I'm going to remove the things that are time consuming, that I'm not good at, and that aren't effective in my role, and if I can outsource them, as if a magic PA came in and said, I'm going to take this off your desk, what would you give them? That is the way to think about it. It's to think about, if an executive assistant arrived on your doorstep, what would you give them? Would you give them stuff for your household budget? Is there stuff in your house that really gets you down? Renewing insurance plans. Is organizing a holiday really stressful for you? So thinking of it as a way of enhancing your life, as if somebody gave you an assistant to help you in your life, and looking at it that way, and just learning how it works. I always taught people about social media in the beginning anyway, Neil. I would always say, especially my friends who have parents, I would tell them, go onto these platforms. You don't have to post anything, but please see how they work, because your children are going to be on them, and you may as well bridge that gap. You don't have to dance on them, you don't have to post anything, but at least understand the lingo and understand the worlds that they are spending a lot of time in. And that invitation I gave to everyone, I just want to give again here, as just the same thing, is just, that's all you have to do, is just embrace
Yeah.
and figure it out in a small bite-sized way.
Okay. Okay, that's quite important because our topic is humanizing AI.
Yeah.
And so in your work with organizations, when the organization wants to introduce AI, what are the typical reactions that people have? And then most importantly, what are the strategies that you've employed? You've touched on it, but maybe you can expand for us a little bit on that. What are the strategies that you employ and recommend organizations to employ to deal with possible pockets of resistance
Mm-hmm.
around AI implementations?
Yeah, well, it's definitely doing a poll at the very beginning, like having a survey go out to the whole organization. Well, usually we're doing it department by department. So the whole organization, but each department gets a more customized one. I guess it's no surprise that I said before, sales people and marketing people, we're typically the type of people that embrace new things. We would hop on, I think I was one of the first 1% of people on LinkedIn when it came out, how many ever many years ago. anytime there's some new technology, my personality type is I want to figure out how it works. I hop in and play in the sandpit. I don't wait for a course or someone to teach me. I just download the app and I'll go in and kind of figure it out. But I realize that a lot of people don't like that. They want their hand held and walk through it step by step. So the first place we have to start with is with the company and each department doing a survey of where they're at, how they feel about AI, are they using any tools, and a series of questions using some of the reinvention frameworks that we've done in the past is to get a temperature check for each department and find out. Oh, very typically, there is always one person, at least two people minimum, who will be not resistant, but who will be an embracer, and they can be the people that can shine the light and show through example that these tools can be helpful in their business. So the temperature check is the first place to start, and you will find the resistance quite very quickly. Instead of the resistance, what's happening now is instead of polling people and finding who needs which type of training, some people like me, just give me the app, I'll figure it out. I'll do a YouTube, I don't care. Other people are like, no, show me step by step, hold my hand. So the thing is, if you can get the different training modalities done right per department, and then you'll find these pioneers, these people who will help you promote, and they'll be very positive. You can then partner them up with the people that are resistant. But it has to be done department by department, and done in a way, in a human centric way. I know I keep harping on about it, but this is the part that's missing. They're not sitting with the humans going, tell me how you really feel. And then the person goes, how I really feel is that my job is gone, that I've spent 10 years being an expert and it's gone. So what am I going to do? And that change management conversation, that could be that, yeah, in 5 years, you are going to have a different career. What would you like to do? But we're all going to have that. We've seen it ourselves, Neil, as consultants. My job has completely changed over the last few, a year even.
Okay. All right. So very often when organizations go on this journey of implementing anything, including AI, there's always a business case around the return on investment, the ROI, and et cetera, et cetera. But because of the huge impact of AI, how would you advise us as listeners to measure the success of an AI implementation
Yeah.
other than just using the cold ROI metrics?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be, culture and happiness as well. Like if you can have, oh, great, if you're going to save a load of money and then maybe you've let people go. We all know everyone has survivor guilt when there is a cuts done in a company. The culture goes down. People feel bad that they've lost their colleagues. So this is why the slow down to speed up approach is really valuable. I don't know if you heard the story about Klarna a few months ago. They got rid of 700 staff overnight because they went, and I believe it was the customer service roles that they got rid of, because they went, oh, look how much money we can save.
Mm.
Within a few weeks, they were hiring 350 people back. And
Wow.
because they had to, because again, they did it too quick. They looked at the money only. So you can imagine the culture took a massive dip. The people that left, so that there was other people then going, well, this isn't the type of company I want to work for. And that backlashed very quickly. So that is the repercussions of if you are not looking, if you're most companies do an customer, not just a customer NPS, but an employee happiness survey. Like, are you asking your employees every week, what's on your mind? How are you doing? How are things going? Are you happy? And you're going to have to embed that into the culture as well. You can't, doing it quickly, looking at the numbers is a disaster for the people that are left.
Mm. Okay, that's quite important and quite interesting. During your presentation, you mentioned a few, or you showed us a few staggering statistics. I'd like you to just expand for us on some of them, and particularly the reasons for those statistics. Is it just change resistance? Is it just people are not ready? Is it the organizational culture? What is leading to those staggering statistics of within the AI implementation space?
Yeah. It's coming at it, what we're seeing very typically. This is a kind of a typical, I'll give you an analogy, like a story of what we're experiencing when we're working with these companies. The board of directors says to the CEO, what are you doing about this AI thing? So that's where the conversation starts. And the CEO is going to the IT department because in their heads it's an AI, it's technology, right? Which it is, but it's technology that is revolutionizing every single human and every single company. So really the conversation should be with the HR department going, how are people feeling? And if you don't know how your company feels about AI, if you can't find the people who are stars and are embracing it and using it in their life that can help you with the whole company, that's the number one place it's falling over, is treating it as just technology.
Okay.
And that because the IT guy who a person who's in the IT department, those people love technology. That's why they're in the job. They've been using AI for ages and they're only delighted to geek out on the AI conversation. So they'll come and get some AI training and they're like, oh, this is great. We want everyone to do this. But they're speaking to an audience that hasn't been talked to about this on a human, personal level. I mean, I had a conversation the other day talking about the training that I'm doing and the work that I'm doing with a friend over coffee. And there was one of her friends was beside, and I said AI, and she did the cross signal and hissed at me. Oh, that dark technology. And I was going, wow, that is a really interesting visceral reaction to something. And I said, tell me more about it. And she goes, I don't trust it. It doesn't, there's something scary about it. It's going to take our jobs. It's dehumanizing people. And she had a really personal opinion on this, Neil. Can you imagine? So she is not the person in your training class when you've got an IT guy who's just delighted to share all the things that he's been learning about how exciting this is, when you have somebody that resistant in the room. And then you get a license for that person. And because they've been through training you've ticked that box, you then expect them to take it on board. But what we're seeing is people are not using it. So they're saying, it's not helping me in my job. No, this doesn't work, because they have a personal resistance to it. So that's the main reason those numbers are as they are, is of the approach. It is a change management. It is, yes, people are going, at the very least, their job is going to radically change. It's something that a tool could possibly save them 5, 10, 15 hours. And what are they going to do instead? Or, that's the very least that's going to happen. So the leaders, what's working much better is round table leadership, reinvention discussions that the company is going to change. Then you get a temperature check on the everyone, each department and each team, who's resisting, who's positive. And it's a HR first approach. It isn't an IT approach. And if anyone wants to see someone geeking out on AI, Dharmesh, who's the owner, one of the owners of HubSpot, you will see a man who just loves talking about it. And I love watching him because he's so passionate about AI. But if you didn't feel the same, you would be really resistant to what he was talking about.
Okay, that's quite interesting, Clodagh. So if I'm sitting in HR and you as the CEO comes to me and say, we're going to be doing this kind of implementation, and you share with me what you've just shared with me, what are the kinds of attitudinal changes and skills, potential skills, that I need to instill in the rest of the organization to increase our possibility of successfully implementing AI?
Yeah.
What are the and you've mentioned reinvention a couple of times,
Yes.
but what are the kinds of discussions that must be had? What are the kinds of attitudinal changes that must be in place in order for me to be effective in bringing the organization along with the AI implementation?
Yeah, and that's where you would have the leaders of all of the company in every department. That's where you bring them together, and that's when you're going, our company is changing, the world is changing. How are we reinventing ourselves so that everyone's contributing? That's the work that needs to be done. So that, bringing in a reinvention a practitioner, or getting the tools and doing them yourself, but getting a facilitator in, and that's not an AI expert. It's actually a person who can facilitate a conversation about our company is changing. And we have to adapt through it. The world is changing and we need to adapt to it. Yes, get an AI expert in after you're opening everyone's eyes to going, are we on board with this? Who is not resisting this? Who is resisting this? Who is going to have a growth mindset? Because your whole leadership needs to have this. And this isn't something you're going to do now and then go back to, we tick that box. Like I said, in the process, every year you're going to have to do this. Every year, an audit of how the AI is performing, the data, how clean it is, the cost benefit analysis. Oh my goodness, that AI tool that we were paying, $50 per person per seat, that's now, 1,000. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do about that? So it's actually having people, the whole leadership team, all working together and owning and acknowledging the world's changed, the company has to change. Now, how can we support everybody in the company to move along with us? And yes, we may lose people, but let's help retrain and reskill them, teach them these AI tools so that they are employable in the next thing. It's not that the AI is going to take your job. It's the people that know how to use them in their jobs is what's going to make sure that you stand the test of time and that you are employable by another company, or you might set up on yourself, like whatever it is. But it's to get a growth mindset into the company and having people, the leadership team, just acknowledging we can't ignore this anymore. We're not going to be one of the 95% that fails. We're going to do this slowly, steadily, properly, and we're committing to it.
Okay. Okay, that's quite important as well, yeah. So looking into the future, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Clodagh. Looking 3-5 years ahead, which in today's terms is it's long term. It's very long term.
It is.
What changes do you think we'll see in how AI is being implemented, being used, and over the next 3 to 5 years, how do we get to a point where we actually humanize AI? And the question I have for you is, do you think that 3 to 5 years is enough?
It could even happen quicker, depending on the organization and depending on how people are actually like how people adapt to it, because it is not like social media. You can't ignore it. You can't say, I'm not going to learn or understand this. I have a very idyllic way. I don't know if you remember, was it Bizstone that set up Twitter? I think he has an expression about himself that he's hallucinogenically optimistic about things. And that's why he was able to start Twitter. And for me, what I truly do believe is if the company learns how to adapt, if your organization learns how to adapt, we are going to be looking at things like 20-hour work weeks, but people are still paid the same because the company is still performing the same. I believe we're not going to be working this 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. A lot of people aren't anyway. I saw somebody, it was Lena coming in saying she's a digital nomad. We're going to have a lot more free time, but we'll still have the money, the finances, or maybe our job does cut our wage, but we have more time to maybe do a side gig, a consulting gig, write that book we've always wanted to write. But for me, I personally feel this is a big opportunity for people to connect back to who they are. You know, it will be people who can go back to that hobby. Thanks, Lena. The hobby that they'd given up because they didn't have time to do it, to spend more time with the family, to spend more time in nature. I actually truly believe what gets me excited about AI is doing jobs that, number one, I'm not very good at, and I always mess up things like receipts and paperwork and bookkeeping-y kind of jobs, or anything at follow up or admin that I forget. And it's going to improve if we learn and embrace it and get on the human side of it to make sure that we're not getting all this extra time and then filling it with more work. You know, we're going to actually write that book that we've always said, or write that children's book, because we can now do it. We now have anything we want to do, that goal that we had, that we wanted to go and travel somewhere, that we wanted to take some time off. This is what's possible if we embrace it and harness it, as if we all have been given a new positive executive assistant who wants to take the things out of our life that we're not good at, that drag us down, so that we can have time and space and thinking time, creativity time, nature time, knitting and sewing time. Those are the things that how I personally believe it can be. And it's about a company embracing that as well, going, maybe they have to, they have to let go of this 9 to 5 and let go of all the old structures that got us to where we are now. And that's the positive side of it. The negative side, I don't know, because I don't like dwelling on a lot of things. I feel anyone who lets go of too many people in the tech industry, it's just going to bite them. What I want to see with companies, and what we're encouraging the companies we're working with, is treat this like it's career guidance. The job is different. If you listen to Daniel Priestley, he has told everyone in his company, the company is dead. Whatever company it is, if it's Dent, if it's Scorecard, if it's Book Magic, he's gone, the company's dead. Now reinvent it. Go and find the tools. HubSpot's doing it. Go and find the tools that are going to help you in your job. But we have to then go, well, that person now is going, I've got 20 hours free. What would you like to? I would like to learn something else, because now I have all this free time. And you might end up having you might end up having two roles in a company instead of one, because you have an ability to do so much more.
Yeah. Gee whiz, Clodagh. I mean, I wasn't prepared for this. The changes you're talking about is almost existential. I'll have to deal with myself more often.
Right.
Work.
Yeah. And this can be, as especially Neil, especially for men, have built their identity. If you think of some of the senior corporate bankers, all those big jobs, or anyone in PwC with their management, a lot of men have built their identity around their job. And
Yes.
the concept of not going to work for a day, or not having that there is a day free because they got everything done in 4 days instead of 5. You have to have a conversation with that man and that person. I'm not saying it's just men, but it has lent very heavily with men having their
Yes.
identity wrapped around what they do for work.
Yes. Yeah.
They never had any free time for family or hobbies, or their hobbies are long gone, or maybe their fitness has long gone because they didn't have time to go and look after themselves because they were looking after the work, the family, the wife, the kids. They were putting everyone else first.
Yes. No, certainly. Well, there's a lot of important takeouts from your what you've shared with us, Clodagh, and thank you for that. First of all, it is we need to, as business consultants, but also as people within organizations, focus on having a human-centric. This is not an IT implementation. It's human-centric, a lot of change management, reinvention principles coming in, etc., etc.
Yeah.
The other takeout I got from you is that based on your experience and what's happening in the industry now is working hours are going to be reduced. So what do I do with myself? Could be completely positive. It could mean that I can go into a meltdown with all the free time. And then and then I think one of the key areas is this is not only about ROI. This is not only about efficiencies. People have a huge role to play in the success of the organization, along with AI. And I think that is critical. And if we can get that message, if we can share that, I think we'll go far. Even just us here. I've seen Lena B just commenting earlier on saying, as a sole entrepreneur, AI is my brain buddy. So Lena B, he or she, is already working quite closely with AI, and that's cool to see and hear. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just caveat as well, Neil, just as you were summarizing there. What's important, again, this is the old way of doing something is getting the expert. So say it's a Salesforce expert or a HubSpot expert or an IT expert or whoever that person is generally very geeky and very positive about what they're teaching. Okay. And that worked fine in the past because there wasn't an emotional element to learning AI. There is always an emotional element. So what we do is we partner with the geeks, right? So I have the experience. I've been a business coach, a performance coach for over 16 years now. Can I learn? I have learned some AI tools, but I'm not going off to be an absolute AI expert because that's not what's needed right now. Our AI experts work on the readiness report, the data, the cost benefit analysis. That's where we keep them in their zone of genius because they're super excited about that. And then the business coaches, the performance coach, the trainers, the facilitators, the human who can have a conversation if somebody is having a meltdown about what am I going to do? This is over for me. That we can have a conversation because that's my training and my experience is to break it all down for them, to be helping them be comfortable in this new world that we don't know what it's going to look like. But we've all very lucky we've survived lockdown. And I remember I have a very similar feeling to what's going on right now when the world closed down and we were very severe lockdowns in this country. And I had, I had to look at my life and go, I have a choice. What's within my control? I'm going to focus on that, and what I have to let go of. And that's a mindset shift. And that's what we need right now. We need to, and as like Lena said, yes, wellness executive. We're going to be so much more room for that. So there people will be leaving jobs, but there is going to be this massive demand for coaches, for life coaches, for facilitators, for change management, because and the AI geeks and the IT geeks, they're going to love it. They're like, they're behind the scenes doing the work so that we can help the people. And every company needs to have more wellness coaches, more business coaches, so that they can help the company from a leadership team get their heads around the fact that the company is going to change and that the people are going to need weekly, monthly calls. They might need career advice transition, but you're going to have to do it in a proper way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Clodagh, for sharing your thoughts with us. Really thought-provoking takeouts for all of us. But at the same time, I think it is also quite important for us to have this conversation instead of just being bombarded with information and misinformation around it, and giving us the opportunity to actually sit with what you've shared, because it could create and it will create opportunities for us as well as individuals in our individual roles, whether it's being business consultants or working in HR or being a digital nomad, etc., etc. So thank you very much for that. Before I take one or two questions, I'd like to know if you have any closing remarks that we should keep in mind.
Yeah, just slowly get your head around the fact that you have to do something now. But it doesn't have to be all done overnight. And I just acknowledge that and see where you're at yourself. Are you excited about AI? Are you using any tools? Are you learning anything about it? Just it cannot be ignored like social media. We had the luxury of saying if we want to be on social media or not, most of us for our personal lives. But that is not where we're at with this right now.
Okay, fantastic. What we're going to do now, Jeanette and Clodagh, is we'll open it up for one or two questions, if you're okay with that, Clodagh.
I'd love to, yes.
Okay, so is there anybody that just put up your hand and we'll open it up for questions? Or do you want to post it? I'm not sure if Jeanette is unmuted. Everybody.
I am unmuted. I'm not able to put my video on again, but Brian had a question that he's popped into the chat box, which if we just summarize it very quickly, we're talking about possibly those people on the lower income spectrum. How are they going to be able to sustain themselves if you're thinking about the kind of jobs that they might tend to be doing, and probably the extent of the replacement of AI on many of some of the routine functionalities. What are some of the are there any proposals around that, Clodagh, when you're specifically looking at certain groupings and certain types of jobs? I suppose we can very easily reinvent ourselves, as you're saying. Yeah. But that might not be possible for everyone, and maybe with focus on the lower income spectrum, with some of those additional challenges, what could you recommend or suggest, or what do you see could potentially happen there?
Yeah, so I'll give you, there's one in particular, this, I think the bookkeeping space or the data entry space, or any of those kind of government jobs that somebody might say, oh, I don't talk to anyone at all. I'm on my computer and I'm entering data into a spreadsheet and I send it off to the next person. Those jobs are possibly the ones that are most going to be affected. I don't know if there's a bookkeeping app that came out a while ago. I can't remember. It's like Spark or Sparkle or something, where you take a photograph of the receipt and it puts it into a spreadsheet. Like that used to be someone's job, So it's things like that. And what I say to people in those jobs, learn how to use the tools, because you're either going to be told that the tool is coming, or you can sit there and go, hey, I've figured out that I can actually take on and I've got my job done now because I've been using this tool, and I'm also interested in learning more about another part of my role. There's always something in your role that you wish that you could learn more about. So it's becoming the most invaluable person on your team right now by openly going, and figuring out what could you do, what could save you time, doing some research, watching some YouTube videos. And even if you saved yourself an hour a day or something, well, then that's an hour a day that you could potentially be upskilling yourself in your job to be even better, because you're either going to be told to learn the tool, or you can sit there and go, I have been learning it. Now, in government jobs, mainly, there's still a big, you can't use these tools. There's a big, they're going to take an awful long time to be affected. But then it'll happen quite quickly, like you've seen in the tech industry. So which do you want? Do you want to sit there and go, I'm going to be okay? Like, we have a health service here called the HSC. My sister actually works in the HR department there. And when I said AI to her, she laughed. She went, oh, we'll never get round to using that. Like, she was going, we're very far behind. We're in that, we're still using paper for things, was, I think, her comment. Now that's fine now, but what can happen is a change can happen extremely quickly. And we've seen that happen before. So yeah, they might get away for a year or 2 years, maybe 3, but then it'll all happen within a month. So right now we have the luxury of, there's space. It's happening quickly, but I would just recommend anyone to go and learn any one or any, even if you learned one tool for your personal life. There could be one tool, you've figured out a prompt that writes your meal plans, your shopping lists, your saves you money, maps it out by the aisle so it saves you time and you shop, anything at all. But it is coming, so you have a choice. You can sit and wait, or you can get involved now.
Thank you for that, Clodagh. And thanks, Brian, for your insightful question, and Jeanette for summarizing it so nicely. We'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up. Grant?
Grant's got some great stuff to share, actually.
Is
We've been
it?
having a conversation recently.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I think so, Clodagh, just based on what you were saying about people needing to either learn or be forced to learn, we've sort of adopted the strategy of informing the team about AI and how we intended using it probably a year ago,
Yeah.
right? And in our business, we've got a tech team and we've got the creative marketing people. So the tech team, and I think it's quite obvious, they've all gone ahead and learned AI and how it can enhance what they do and how it can make them more efficient. Whereas the creatives and the marketers were slower in adopting it, and that's fine.
Right.
But just with the updates that HubSpot have made recently,
Yeah.
our marketers are now being forced to use AI. They're being forced to learn how AI works and what it does within the HubSpot platform.
Right.
So some of them have been slow to adopt it up until this point.
Yeah.
Now it's been forced on them because it's a requirement for the role that they perform for us. But what it's done is it's actually, I suppose, accelerated their willingness to learn AI in some cases, where people who previously have been slow to adopt change,
Yeah.
they're now coming to us and going, I managed to do this, and previously I would have had to get someone else to do it for me.
Right.
So
how is, thank you for sharing that, Grant. I guess that is a perfect live example of what I'm talking about. And like I've said, if you gave people an opportunity a year ago, and this is what, if you're resisting it and thinking, sure, it's okay, I don't use social media. Like, if you use it with social media glasses,
yeah,
or put it in the social media box, or say things like, oh, well, I'm creative, it's different. Anyone who's used Love Art on AI will realize that you can have a graphic design creative department in within 2 seconds. So
yeah.
And have you seen the I guess the emotional impact of that now? Because I can imagine people are emotional about the fact that they now have to do something when you gave them an invitation and there was a choice, but now there isn't a choice. Have
Well,
you
I
seen
think,
any emotional
yeah,
side of that?
I, we've got one team member in particular who's slightly older than the rest of the team. So she's in her early 50s. And for her, it's been more difficult than the younger people, right? Our average age is probably, I would say, 33, 34 across the team. But we take out this particular person and Craig and myself, we're in our 50s. The rest are all sort of mid 30s, early 40s. And she was she took the longest to sort of embrace AI and what it could do. But our message right from the beginning was AI is coming. AI can take your job. If you want your job, you need to make sure you can use AI to enhance your role.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that message is the message we've been giving them for the last year.
Wonderful.
And the scary thing is at Inbound, the message was very much about hybrid, right? Craig went to a Gartner conference the week after Inbound and was very different. It was AI is going to take your job.
In the Gartner,
in the Gartner, it was they were basically saying if you don't change the way you do things and use AI to your advantage, you won't have a job. Because someone who can strategize with AI is going to take your job. And they're going to do your job and someone else's job.
Yeah. They're very bullish on it. I guess HubSpot and in the marketing community, they're a lot more softer because
there's always the fluff around it, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, and the message we've said to our guys, we don't want you to lose your job. We want you to be able to do things differently. And that's been taken on board. We've been lucky that they've taken it on board.
That's wonderful.
So
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you, Grant. That's quite insightful. Just listening to Grant, my daughter works for an online retail platform. And she was about a year ago, she was sharing that their leadership right from the top is pushing for them to use AI, etc., etc. And an entire year before they were projected to make a profit, they did. And if you compare it to other online retail stores who are still not making money, and I'm not saying it's because of AI, but she was very clear that the message from the top is use AI. It wasn't about we're going to implement AI. It was about use it so that you can be effective in your job. It's quite interesting listening to Grant now. Yeah, that is a nice approach.
One of the things we said to our guys, Neil, was like Clodagh said, the things that she doesn't like doing, it's good to get AI involved. And we sort of gave our guys the same message, but it was also the things that are repetitive that you don't need to think about, but just take up time, get AI to do it. Why waste your time doing something that you don't want to be doing anyway?
100%. Yeah. Or that you're not effective at. That's usually what are you not good at? What takes a lot of time and what doesn't move the business forward or your role forward.
It's where can you add value? Because that's our whole thing with our team is where can you add value? That's all we want.
Yeah.
If you can add value, then you're doing a great job. So if you're spending half your day doing the same thing every day, you're not adding value.
No.
Get AI to do it and find that other thing.
Yep. Perfect. People, we have reached the end of our session today. To all our participants, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for those that have contributed. Thank you for Jeanette for setting it up, and thank you, Clodagh.
Thank you.
Higgins, for joining us and sharing your pearls of wisdom. It was really insightful, and this is a conversation we're going to need to take forward as we move into the rest of 2025 and into 2026, because it is here, people. There's no getting away from it.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.